Let's see some images from Romania in terms of floods and difficult situations that we've had in our country.
Drama prin care trec locuitorii comunelor gălățene afectate de inundații este greu de exprimat în cuvinte. În mai puțin de câteva ore, viiturile au distrus complet satele. Vorbim despre sute de case afectate în proporție de aproape 100%. Gospodării din care, în cele mai fericite dintre cazuri, oamenii abia au reușit să-și salveze medicamentele și 2-3 haine mai groase.
Ușa asta am pus noi de formă. Deci în 2013 a fost până aici, în 2016 până aici.
Ploile abundente au făcut ca puhoaiele de apă să crească foarte rapid, astfel că localnicii au încercat să fugă cât mai repede din calea inundațiilor.
Am dat drumul la geam, că era să mănec dincolo în partea ailantă. A venit apa pe geam până aici. Am mai țăpat la pompieri, n-au apetat că nu poate să intre, pe urmă noroc de băiat că a sunat de a venit cu barca și m-a scos de acolo.
Apa a ajuns, iată, se vede pe această urmă, a ajuns la acest nivel, mai bine de 2 metri în înălțime. Așa arată pereții acestei locuințe care au fost pur și simplu smulși de puterea viiturii.
Seara de inundații a strigat ajutor, ajutor, dar de unică dacă apa era pe la mine la gât. L-a luat cu tot, cu modul și l-a dus tot în Valea Adânc.
Acum, la timp, nu. Păi un să fie la atâta potop de apă cât a fost. Cine garantează viața aici?
Așa arată unul din corpurile școlii Elena Negri din comuna Costache Negri. Ușile au fost smulse de apă, au fost aduși în interior mai mulți bușteni.
Așa arată holurile școlii gimnaziale Emil Panaitescu din Cudalb și cu greu pot înainta aici.
În județul Vaslui, în zona Berezeni, drumul este cufundat în ape. Imaginile dezastrului surprind oameni care încearcă să traverseze o fostă pășune, acum complet scufundată. 3 sate au rămas izolate.
Nu se poate. E cam blocat.
E cam blocat. Trebuie să ajung cu pâine și nu pot să ajung. Cel puțin o oră, 2, nu cred că scade apă.
În nordul Moldovei, viitura a afectat 2500 de kilometri de străzi și drumuri. Apa a ajuns până în dormitoarele vasluienilor, măturând tot în calea ei.
Ajutor n-am de nicăieri, nici din dreapta, nici din stânga. Primăria au venit, s-au uitat, au plecat. Pompierii au scos 2 ore apa, acum au venit înapoi. Au venit apa și din dreapta și din stânga. M-au prins la mijloc. Camerele sunt toate praf, nici patul la fel îi ud până la brâu, până asta, plapuma tot. Stau și eu ca asupra la mila lui Dumnezeu.
Deocamdată le scoatem afară cu toate. Ce urmă ce om face?
Păi asta întreb, ce faceți după aceea?
Nu știu.
So events like this are that happened in member states. I just gave the example of Romania, but we've seen also in Austria or in Poland situations, difficult situations for people and for the whole country are always discussed, debated here at the European level, and in general some money are found in order to help the states that are in a difficult situation.
Well, of course, the Commission has a possibility to move on the support to the member states on civil protection mechanisms or activating support in kind or in money. But
actually, that's the idea of the European Union.
That's the idea of the European Union. It's this solidarity in action. But it is also important that those events are discussed immediately in the plenary. That's also the reason that the agenda was changed, and to make sure that the main debate of this plenary focuses on the floods and the terrible consequences for the populations, and to see what the EU can put together to support directly the regions affected and the recovery in a way. So this will be the case, and there will be a resolution also adopted on Thursday to encourage the Commission, guide the Commission in its action.
Let's see some part of these debates.
Europarlamentarii români au fost foarte vocali în timpul dezbaterilor de la Strasbourg. Au cerut imperativ ca țara noastră să primească ajutoarele din fondul de solidaritate, pentru că situația este urgentă.
Susțin creșterea bugetului pentru instrumentele financiare dedicate situațiilor de urgență și calamităților. Trebuie să realizăm investițiile destinate prevenției. Iar în acest sens am solicitat încă o dată executivului european să prezinte propuneri și alocări financiare concrete.
Mesajul principal pe care îl transmitem în această dimineață din Parlamentul European este că Uniunea Europeană ajută. Uniunea Europeană va ajuta oamenii afectați de inundații, va ajuta întreprinderile, va ajuta autoritățile locale.
Pe lângă pierderile de vieți omenești,
Sunt afectate puternic economiile locale.
Fondul de solidaritate al Uniunii Europene a fost creat tocmai pentru a susține financiar un stat membru sau o regiune în caz de catastrofă naturală majoră.
Apelul meu este pentru Comisia Europeană, trebuie disponibilizați imediat bani din Fondul de solidaritate, flexibilizați banii europeni deja existenți. Acești oameni au nevoie disperată de ajutor acum, iar magnitudinea acestui dezastru este mult prea mare pentru o țară cum este România.
Domnule comisar, poate mă ascultați. Este important nu să clamăm solidaritatea, ci să o facem prin fapte. De aceea cred că trebuie imediat alocate fonduri, nu cât mai avem în buget, ci cât trebuie, pentru că nimic nu este mai important decât viața oamenilor.
Except this difficult situation, these moments that appear during time, there are big issues, big discussions regarding several things, and I've seen the work that the European Parliament put on things like the climate change, the Green Deal, and of course everything that means future. What we do, what should we do in order to have a better future?
Well, Parliament will work as a co-legislator to have European laws that really fits and delivers on citizens' expectations. This is really the work of the elected members. That's the reason they got elected, and they meet with their political groups to find solutions. So they will receive proposals from the Commission, but they're also calling for specific propositions. You've seen the interest in the Parliament for competitiveness, but in a green transition and with digital transition accompanied. Rule of law, democracy, protection of democracy is also very high on the agenda. Well, it can be housing and the economic and social recovery of Europe. These are also elements. Foreign affairs, as I said, external relations with Ukraine and the support to bordering countries, but also enlargement process will be high on the agenda. There are many, many topics, including also migration and the support to refugees are also topics that will be highly discussed. So we have now guidelines from the Commission that were presented in July. This is on this basis that the members will quiz the candidates commissioner on the basis of their mission letters to see what types of legislations they will propose to make sure that we fit the needs and it fits what the activities that are unrolling. Because as you said, sometimes things can also evolve from a year to another. And we see now, for example, an increased interest regarding the question of the competitiveness and possibility for Europe to have a strong but also green transition, a strong economy, but a green transition and digitalization to harvest the fruits of it.
We are seeing a pretty new European Parliament. A big portion of the European Parliament is with persons that are at the first mandate. Will this give a different view to the European issues, in your opinion?
Well, we have nearly 50% of newly elected members indeed. It was nearly 60% in 2019, so it's a regular feature. We have a lot of newcomers, but the work started already in the committees, so they will also be accompanied with more experienced members. And most of them are experienced, are very strong experts in their field, and they will totally engage heavily in the work in the first weeks already.
So we will not see a total change overnight of the European Parliament's view, let's say.
Well, on the views, it will depend on the votes in plenary and in committees, of course. The composition has changed. There is still a very strong European majority, as you've seen, with the election of President Metsola and election of the President-elect Ursula von der Leyen, that supports the guidelines presented by the Commission. But we have seen a diversification of the voices represented in the European Parliament. There are 8 political groups, and all of them will be heard. This is all the members elected get their say in the way that the plenary unrolls. Of course, the major political groups remains the EPP and the Socialist Party groups, and then of course they will negotiate among themselves to find consensus and compromises and possibilities to have outcomes of votes in plenary. This is the beauty of democracy, is to build compromises and find consensus.
In general, one of the things that is criticized at the European level by the citizen is the bureaucracy. And I know the effort that this institution is putting in reducing the bureaucracy in order to make things quicker, better, more adequate for the citizens. Will we see this happening also in the near future?
Well, at least the Parliament supported this part in the guidelines of the Commission. This is one of expectations of many political groups, to see a cut in the red tape, to making sure that the bureaucracy can be limited to what is needed, to make sure that we are agile enough. But of course, not at the detriment of the content of legislation, to make sure we deliver on citizens' expectations. So it's something that the members will scrutinize with attention from the Commission proposals. But of course, on the Parliament side, what we can do as Parliament is making sure that what is being done in the European Parliament is very transparent. So that's the reason the committees are accessible and can be followed in all the languages online. That's the same for the plenary. Citizens can access it, and that's the reason we have also local offices in the different member states, to make sure that the interaction with the elected members is as easy as possible.
It is important to watch exactly what is the European Parliament doing in order to keep the European Union more united. We've seen in the last legislature a lot of debates on the future of Europe. People were asked, how do you see the European Union? What do you need from the European Union? What should be changed? Is it the moment to see again a discussion regarding the treaties?
That's really a question for the members.
Exactly.
But we know that there was a conference on the future of Europe. Parliament was very supportive of the outcome and has also kept traces of how many of the proposals of the citizens took, well, basically translated into reality. It's quite a number, in fact. But it's true that Parliament continued to hammer on the possibility, for example, to make sure that there are more decisions taken at qualified majority, or that the Parliament has a real right of initiative. So they will continue to make sure that at least the institutional balance between the two legislators become as even as possible. This is also the reason why the cooperation agreement that we have with the Commission is being rediscussed now that we are paving the way for the new college, to make sure that the Parliament is fully associated and informed in the same way as the other branch of the legislative bodies, which is the Council of Ministers.
You are working for many years in the European institutions and in this one especially. What are the strengths and the vulnerabilities of the European Parliament?
Well, I think the strength is that you have a vast diversity of voices, but that also they build on the expertise of the different members, and that they can discuss, really take the time to discuss in committees, prepare for having really strong amendments, make sure that we have in the final compromises text that reach the plenary to find solutions. So Parliament is always geared up in the end votes, in the end proposes solutions. It's also an interesting institution because it relays the concerns of the citizens. It's the first to also place on the agenda some topics. Parliament was the initiative, for example, of the Act on Artificial Intelligence. It was an initiative to push that on the agenda of the Commission, saying this is a new technology, we need to know what are the challenges, but also the possibilities, but also how this might affect the population. So this agenda setter role is a very fascinating one to follow. It's really, for me, the institution that conveys really the population's concerns and brings them to the debate that can be followed here in 24 languages.
The vulnerabilities?
Well, on the vulnerabilities, it's the same. It takes time to to have agreements with so many different voices. You have to make sure that you have the time to discuss and find it. So sometimes it can be seen as citizens as a bit too long of a process. But as I used to say, it's not easy to find a solution and compromises already with a family of 4 to know where to go on holiday. So when you're 27
not even in 2 sometimes, yeah.
Even with 2. So with 27 member states, 8 political groups, and a diversity of regions and voices, it's normal that it takes sometimes a bit of time. But the purpose is really to go and find solutions that are in the interest of the European citizens and, well, to find solutions to problems and concerns that arise.
I've seen something that is a strength, in my opinion. I've seen the adaptability of this institution to some situations that appeared overnight. COVID crisis, for example. You were the first institution that went totally online and continued the job that had to be done in order to protect the citizens. We've seen the reaction when the war started in Ukraine, and also the European institution and the president of this institution were the first ones that were there in Ukraine in order to help and put all the money and all the discussion in there.
Well, this is the advantage of the European Parliament, is really be tuned in with the concerns of the citizens. So when a situation arises, you cannot put democracy on hold, as former President Sassoli used to say. So of course they found a way during the COVID crisis to continue to meet in spite of the limitations that were in place for very clear and health reasons. So they continue to work in 24 languages from a distance, making sure that the Parliament could play its role as legislator and facilitate, for example, the free circulation of those goods, like the respirators and the masks that were very needed. But also when the war came, it was important to have a moment where we could, well, portray the solidarity of the European Union and the support to Ukraine rapidly. And the plenary in Brussels at the time with President Zelensky was the initiative of President Metsola, and the fact that she went there and visit was also a very strong signal of the support that was needed and that continued. That's the reason I was mentioning you that the first resolution of this legislature was also about the support to Ukraine. Such signals are very important because it conveys the fact that it remains one of the major points of attention of the members in this beginning of 10th legislature.
Thank you so much, Delphine Colard, for this discussion. We will meet again for sure here in Strasbourg or in Brussels.
With pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.